Shalom, and welcome to another Petachamol podcast from Bay Abadan, teaching Noahide Judaism for Messianic Hebrews. Today, we're going to be looking at a new translation of the Quran by my friend Murad. His channel is called Saint Murad. You might know his channel. He's a Middle Easterner. He's in the United States of America, and maybe it's just America, actually. It might be somewhere in America. And he has been working on this translation for a long time, for about 4 years. Is that right, Murad?
Yeah, 4 years for the concordance and a few months just to translate the Quran.
4 years for the concordance and a few months to translate it. The translation itself was easier once you've got the words sorted out. And this is a very interesting and unusual translation of the Quran. It reminds me of a version of the Quran which was available. I know it was available in 1996, but I think it was banned and has been burned and everything since then. And it was a word-for-word translation done by I think it was an Egyptian doctor and his daughter who worked together on this and published that. And I always wanted to get hold of one of those copies because it really sort of highlighted that there's some kind of serious problem when you try to use Arabic, standard sort of Quraishi Arabic or any modern dialect of Arabic, to try and understand the Quran, because it didn't seem to make sense. And I was really wanting to get that because it seemed like a very good scholarly work. That's gone. I don't know where that's gone anymore. I couldn't get access to that. And when Murad sent me this and I opened it up and have a look through, I was very pleasantly surprised because it is exactly a word-for-word, literal translation of the Quran as it appears, as if you were reading it as an Arabic speaker. And this is really important because a lot of the time people think that in order to understand the Quran, you have to be an Arabic speaker, a native Arabic speaker. And what Murad has done here, Murad is a native Arabic speaker, but what he's done here is he's shown you exactly in English as it would appear to you if you were a native Arabic speaker. This is what the Quran actually reads as if you were a native Arabic speaker. I'm very, very glad that somebody finally did that because it really exposes something which is not really well known outside the Arabic audience. And that is fundamentally that the Quran does not make sense to Arabic speakers. So I'll let Murad take over the show at this point. Murad, you can tell us more about how long you're working it, how you set about it, and I'll put up on screen while you're talking. I'll put up on screen the translation that we have here. Thank you. Take it away, Murad.
Yeah, thank you very much, Khan Joe, for having me on your channel.
No problem.
This project, how it began, is that I wanted, as you know, if you have an iPhone, how would you understand it? You would not get an old knife and try to cut it apart. You will get someone who actually knows what he is doing. He will get the right tools and then he will take the device apart and look at every single component on its own. So I said, let's take every single word in the Quran into a concordance. Let's get the words that look alike into the concordance. Let's get the synonyms close to one another. After that, the next step was to look at the very subtle differences between these synonyms. Because, of course, any Quran translator, most of the time, sadly, they are very clumsy when it comes to synonyms. They will say, well, it's just the same word. And they will give you one English word for maybe 3 Arabic words. So just doing it this way got a lot of surprises to the surface. For example, the word nasakha, it's in the Quran 4 times. And if you look at any English translation, you will find that one time it's inscribe with the tablets of Moses, another time it's abrogate, and another time it's write down. Actually, the word nasakha, there is a common theme in all these 4 words. What is the common theme? The Quran translators usually do not know and do not care. Because if they want to understand the word nasakha, they open Tabari, they open Bukhari, they open also Qurtubi, they open books for people who were Persians, who were not even fluent in Arabic. And the Quran, like, I know that it's not Arabic at this stage. After translating it, it's so strange, so weird in Arabic. Even the syntax doesn't make sense. It's like if you look at a game of football and then you watch a game from 1986 and you want to impose the VAR, which we have today, on to the old match. It's not gonna work. You cannot superimpose rules that you made up later. So these Persians made the Arabic rules and then superimposed them on the Quran. They Arabized it. They
Yeah.
ruined it. So after I created this concordance, as I told you, a lot of surprises came to the surface, and the standard Islamic narrative, it started to fade away even more just doing this technique. And I said to myself, I will never touch the sin, never touch the standard narrative at all. So actually, I never opened Al Tabari or Al Baghawi or these people, because people say you can never understand the Quran without these interpretations. I said, well, fine, very good. I am happy that you said that, because I like such a tough challenge. So I said, I will never open them. I will just look at the Quran. If I do
Mhm.
not understand the word, I will find it in every single context in the Quran. The
Mhm.
Quran is not a small book, it's big. And these words, they are mentioned multiple times in other contexts. So just by using logic alone at the first stage, you will kind of glean what the Arabic is actually saying. And then at the next level, I looked at an old source called Al-Furuq al-Lughawiyya al-Askari. In English would be the subtle differences in language for Al-Askari. This is
Mhm.
an Arabic speaker. He looks at these subtle differences. And what's funny, when I open the Arabic dictionary, you will find that it gives you a distinction. It tells you, well, لغويا, it means this, meaning linguistically, this word means this, which is something very pure and very simple. But اصطلاحا, and this اصطلاحا, this word, it's kind of devilish. The word اصطلاحا, and then it gives you the standard Islamic narrative meaning, which has nothing to do with linguistics. So
Mm.
linguistics actually go against the standard narrative, you see?
Absolutely. Um, this is this is why we've been on this channel, or not this channel. We've been on the internet for I know I've been on for decades. I don't know how long you've been on the internet in total, but we met in 2000, wasn't it? Um, and so for the past 5 years, it was during lockdown that we met. And for the past 5 years, there was a lot of interest in us saying that, or people like us saying that the standard Islamic narrative doesn't make any sense. The Quran is not clearly Arabic, as people say. It's clear, beautifully spoken Arabic. It's perfect and easy to understand. And for people who have any kind of sort of academic level of knowledge of Arabic, that's not just people who have got a tourist level of our knowledge, but you don't have to be a fluent Arabic speaker in order to have an academic knowledge. It means some kind of educated, in-depth grammatical analysis and understanding of the vocabulary. You start to realize that things don't really make sense. And if you have honest Arabic speakers, they also will say, look, this is not really making sense. But then you've got the whole weight of the establishment. Let's call it the establishment. I have a problem with the establishment of any religion. But then you've got the establishment of Islam, where everybody who is a believer in the establishment of Islam is saying how beautifully clear it is and how easy it is to understand. But they are always referring to some tafseer to try and make sense of the Quran, and they really are not they're not able to understand it as native Arabic speakers. And I say that that's because it's not in Quraysh dialect. The Quraysh people may have come along and said, oh, this is Quraysh, and they've made up all the rules and tried to twist and turn and do somersaults backwards through hoops to try and make the Quran make sense in that Arabic dialect. I've always said that it's Judeo-Arabic, and it can only make sense if you are reading it as a Jew would read, say, Yiddish, and rather than a German reading Yiddish. The languages are both Germanic languages. A German can read Yiddish. It's got a lot of strange words in it which the German won't understand because, I mean, they can't read the Yiddish alphabet. But if Yiddish was written in a regular European Roman alphabet, then German could read it and would understand so many words, but there are plenty of words which they wouldn't understand because they are Aramaic words, they are Hebrew words, Syriac words, and they wouldn't be able to understand the meanings of those words. But in general, they could understand the German, but it would have a very different meaning to a German than a Yiddish speaker. The same is true with the Arabic of the Quran. Yes, those words have a meaning in Arabic, but it would have a very different meaning to a Judeo-Arabic speaker who has got all the Jewish context in their head and understands all the Aramaic words and the Syriac words and the Hebrew words. And it just has a very different meaning. So what Murad has got here really is an exposition of the problem. He's exposed the problem. Now he's using the Hafs through Asim version, which means he's looked at the haraka. He's looking at the haraka. The haraka, just to remind people, are the little diacritical markings. If I look at these words from the on screen here, you have the basic sort of body of the word. This is the basic structure, the basic body of the word here. And then you've got these little extra symbols on top, which are called the haraka, which give pronunciation. So the haraka is actually different depending on which version of the Quran you're using. And I think if you want to know how many versions of the Quran there are, you're going to have to talk to Jay Smith on that, because it's something which he knows more about than I do. Unless Murad, do you know how many different versions there are? I think he said there were. I think he said that there was. Yeah, go on.
37 maybe.
37, yeah. There are 37 in existence today. And I think he was doing a show once where he showed that in the past, the records of how many different versions there were, he managed to identify up to something like 700 different versions. But 36 versions exist today. And most of those differences are in the haraka. So it's very important to know which version of the Quran you're using. And so he's using this version of the Quran. That is the Hafs through Asim version of the Quran. And it is the most popular version of the Quran, also known as the Cairo edition, I believe. And it was popularized from 1920s onwards. They've managed to popularize this to be like the one and only version of the Quran. But it's not actually the one and only version of the Quran. There's so many different versions to do with haraka. And it was popularized. This version was popularized because there was a computer scientist, Rashid Khalifa, who was trying to, I think, find a version of the Quran which had something special about it, and he found that there may be some kind of pattern to do with the number 19 in this particular version, and so he popularized this version, and that's why this version of the Quran became so popular around the world. But the other versions of the Quran dropped by the wayside and are still available, but they are not as popular as this version. So he used this version, and that's good because it's the most widespread version. And then you can start to see the translations there. Now, he's got his preface there. He introduces himself in the beginning. He explains the background. You can read all that in the book. And then he does a comment on the other translations of the Quran, pointing out the problems, the flaws with all of these versions. And after some discussion, you've got this an explanation of how he went about creating this translation. So he explains his methodology, which is very important. And then you've got your table of contents. So the opening surah here, he begins Surah Al-Fatiha, the first one. And it's very straightforward. By the name of Allah Al-Rahman, the Merciful. The praise is for Allah, Lord of the worlds, Al-Rahman, the Merciful, owner of the day of conviction. Thee do we serve and thee do we seek assistance. Guide us the straight path, the path of those whom thou hast graced over, not the ones angered over, nor the errant ones. And this is really very much word for word, literally what it says in Arabic. When you have that, the first phrase is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And it says, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Malik Yawmiddin, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, Ihdina al-Sirat al-Mustaqim, Sirat al-Ladhina an'amta alayhim, Ghayr al-Maghdubi alayhim, wa la ad-Dawalin. That's basically word for word literal translation here. And there are some problems. It doesn't really make some perfect grammatical sense, especially this one. Guide us the straight path. That's exactly what it says. There's no preposition here at all. You want to say something?
No, I was just gonna say that this is exactly it, the way it is in Arabic. Guide
Mm,
us the straight path. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. Not إلى, not على.
mm, exactly.
Yeah.
And this is something which people miss because they are reading interpretations of the meaning rather than the literal words, and they think that this must be some kind of beautiful Arabic. This is a problem, really. In the very first surah of the Quran, there's a problem. If you're trying to read it in the Quraysh Arabic dialect, it doesn't really make sense. And you can't say, well, this is the beauty of the Quraysh dialect. That's how they said things in the Quraysh dialect. That's a special way. Because nobody really knows, nobody has ever really spoken this dialect, apparently, except for the Persian grammarians and linguistic specialists who explained it for us. Persian, mind you. We should mention that the only people who were ever able to understand and explain Quraysh Arabic were Persians, and that's very curious. straight off the bat, that's a very big problematic thing there. Conviction here. This is interesting. Deen, Yawmiddin. Now people would say, like, Deen. This means religion, doesn't it? And you've got it translated there as conviction. So this is the word you think is this is how the word is used in Arabic. Can you explain more about that?
Well, you see, when I found this word, I was very pleased. In
Mm-hmm,
Arabic, when you say mudan,
mm-hmm,
it's in a court setting. Then if you steal something, then you have to be convicted. This is
mm-hmm,
just negative. So deen in Arabic is only negative. And
mm-hmm,
the other meaning would be a positive conviction. So when it says lakum dinakum waliya deen, meaning you have your convictions, you have your beliefs, I have mine. So it
mm-hmm,
is not religion, because the word religion, if you want to superimpose it on the Quran, then I don't think the Quran knows this word. The Quran only knows if someone is convicted, like of stealing or something, because also the Quran says the word dhanb in my translation would be guilt. It's not
mm-hmm,
sin. The Quran is not really aware, in its Arabic sense at least, it's not aware of the biblical sin. It is just aware of something within, like if you're gonna catch a thief, you will say he has done this guilty deed. So
crime.
conviction has two meanings. In the Arabic and in the English, they go well. They're
Mm-hmm.
exactly the same. That's why I'm happy with this word.
Right, very good. And I like the fact that you have exposed that as well, because the meaning which people will think deen is, well, isn't it religion? It's to do with justice, and it's to do with law, and it's to do with, like in Judaism, it's basically exactly the same. A Beit Din, a house of justice or a house of religion. And so that is the meaning that people tell you that this word deen means. They tell you that it has this Jewish meaning. This Arabic word has a Jewish meaning, and it's the most common one. I'm so happy that you did this, because right there in first surah, it's kind of exposing that this word doesn't have the Jewish meaning that all the Muslims say it has. And if you want this word deen to have the Jewish meaning, which all the Muslims say it has, then you're going to have to accept that this is not a Quraysh Arabic. This is Judeo Arabic, because only in Judeo Arabic the word has actually got the Jewish meaning. But in
Exactly.
exactly
It's like the word ahad. If you want ahad to
Mhm.
just mean one, you have to go with the Jewish meaning. You have to
Right,
abandon Arabic.
right, yeah. There's plenty of examples, and I'm so glad that you did this. So people can see this is what it means in Arabic. And so some of these things that you've been taught are actually Jewish meanings. And then you have to ask, well, why are they teaching us Jewish meanings? Something as simple as deen is very difficult for the Persian linguists to twist the meaning of. It's going to retain its Judeo Arabic meaning from then until now because it's such a common basic word, deen. Um, but but simple fact is, it doesn't mean that in Arabic, and probably has only ever meant that in Judeo Arabic. So let's move on to another one. because we're going to explore some of these things. This is an example. This is a very good example of what we mean when you say it just doesn't make sense. So this is the Surah 2. It starts with Alif Lam Mim. Dhalik al Kitab la rib. Yeah, my pronunciation is horrible. But it says this first word, Alif Lam Mim, you've put there the question mark there in red, in brackets there. Because I suppose you couldn't find or decide any word which really satisfied the meaning of Alif Lam Mim. Is that correct?
Exactly. So it's not in the Arabic dictionary. It doesn't make any sense. And let me tell you that in the Arabic, the way it's written, it's not Alif Lam Mim. No, it's Alim. It's connected. So when people read it Alif Lam Mim, this is some kind of mistake or fraudulent the way they read it. So it's Alim. And it doesn't make sense in the Arabic.
And if people don't know what we're talking about, let me show them. Because when you write, if you're going to write out letters in Arabic as opposed to spelling a word in Arabic, it's going to look very different. Let me bring up an example so you can see in the Arabic what is actually written there. So I'm going to use Corpus Quran. Share this instead, and you see the letters are connected here. Oh, that's showing right now. The letters are connected. That's alim, exactly.
Yeah, and if you read it with these diacritical marks, it would be alama.
Alama. There's this haraka, this long line on the top here, and this second one. This is alam. Okay, that's great. Thank you. I just remind everybody, I never bothered learning how to read all these haraka because I don't need to read them I only know how to read Judeo-Arabic as it is relevant in certain texts. Like, for example, Maimonides, if you want to know what was really being said, you don't read the Hebrew translation of Maimonides, you read what he wrote in Arabic, and you're going to use Judeo-Arabic, which doesn't have any of this. So you would only read just the Arabic letters. So I never learned to read this haraka. I know some of them just because they've popped up many times.
I know them because ever since I was a child, I used to learn this stuff. So it's not that I have put a lot of effort into this, you know?
Okay. And anyway, there you go. So there's alim. But they put it out as if it's alif space, which it looks like it is, but that's always a space between an alif and a lam. That's always a space in Arabic. And then lam space meme, but there is no space between the lam and the meme. They're connected. They are one word. So
exactly.
What does that word mean?
They try to separate them to give it more esoteric meaning. But in reality, it's alama, and we do not know the meaning of it.
And they don't know alama, and they don't know the meaning of it. It seems like it might refer to the passion of the Christ, which is pain, as far as I know. But that is not Arabic. That's a different dialect. So it may be the passion of the Christ, alama, the passion, the pain.
It sounds like that. It sounds like pains in plural. It sounds like that.
Sounds like pains in plural, which doesn't make sense, isn't it? Why would it say pains? That is a writing of no suspicion. It's like, what are you talking about? Pains. That writing no suspicion, in it a guidance for the forefenders. What? Who believe by the absence and upstand the prayer and expend from what we have provided them, and who believe by what has been caused to descend unto thee, and what has been caused to descend from before thee, and are certain by the last one. Those are over guidance from their Lord, and those are the cultivators. It's like, what? What on earth is going on here? But the reason it doesn't make sense is not because Murad doesn't speak English very well, or because he's confused and he hasn't. It's because he's giving us in the English audience the sense of what it actually means to a native Arabic speaker today. This is what it actually means. And don't be deceived when anybody comes and says, no, it clearly means something else. This is what it literally means to a native Arabic speaker. It's weird, it's convoluted, it's unusual, and that's because, very clearly and very simply, it's not written in Arabic as we understand it. Lisan Arabi Mubin, they translate it as being a clear Arabic tongue, a clear Arabic speech. But Lisan Arabi Mubin I don't know how you translated mubin, but mubin is mevin in Hebrew, and it just means intelligible Arabic. So if you say lisan, leshon, Arabi, mubin, it means intelligible Arabic in Judeo-Arabic. So it means that they haven't tried to write this in Arabic. What they've written it in, I always argue, this is a Judeo-Arabic audience has written this, and they've written it in a Judeo-Arabic dialect which is intelligible to them. Hence, they call it Leshon Arabi Mevin, which is basically what they're saying, but that's translated as Lisan Arabi Mubin. How did you translate mubin? Is it the same meaning exactly?
Well, mubin, it's kind of strange because I think in Arabic the word mubin, the way we pronounce it is not correct, because in Arabic you have bayan, and bayan I now know that it means evidence. So I think what it's saying, it's mubayyan. It should be written as mubayyan, lisan Arabi mubayyan, meaning provided with evidence. So bayan would be evidence. This is the word evidence. So like I have it as evident Arabic tongue, but this is because I have to corrupt it as Hafs corrupted it.
Okay, so that's how it goes on. So let's move on a little bit more. I like to look at this, and let's put this in here. Surely those who covered, continuing from the previous verse there, and from those are over guidance from their Lord, and those are the cultivators. Surely those who covered it is even over them, whether thou hast warned them or hast not warned them, they do not believe. Allah has sealed over their hearts and over their hearing, and a superimposition is over their sights, and for them is a great torment. I mean, you just got to the end of this of what appears to be the sentence, and you've already forgotten the first part of the sentence. You're like, what? It's like some kind of hypnosis language. You just get confused,
Yeah, this is
bamboozled
the way
you.
it is. Yeah, in the Arabic.
And of the humans is he who says, we have believed by Allah and the last day, and they are not by believers. They try to cheat Allah, and those who have believed, they do not cheat except themselves, and they do not feel a sickness is in their hearts. So Allah increased them in sickness, and for them is a painful torment by what they were lying. And when it is said to them, do not corrupt in the earth, they said, surely we are the correctors. Isn't surely they are the corruptors, but they do not feel. And I like the way you didn't put any punctuation in this at all, because of course the Arabic has no punctuation. It just continues as one continual stream of words with no.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If I put punctuation, then I'm putting my opinion. I will never do that.
Right. Very good. Well done. So I was very pleasantly surprised. I was really not thinking or expecting this to be much more than just another person's interpretation of the Quran. And I was so delighted last night when Murad sent it to me and I opened it up, I read it through, and I was so delighted immediately. Just reading these passages, I'm immediately delighted. So I thank God somebody has finally put into English exactly how it sounds in Arabic to a native Arabic speaker. This is what it means. And you, the English audience, can get the feel for that. So I would actually recommend you to get hold of a copy of this. He's put his work in. He's got more than 4 years of effort in doing this, and he deserves to be paid for this. Of course, he's not doing this for free. He's not doing this as a charity and a kindness. He's not a religious teacher. I am a missionary, and I'm promoting missionaries about the channel. But he is actually just doing the work, and he's put in the effort. And I think if you want to get a clear idea of what the Quran actually is saying, if you are an Arabic speaker, this is what it actually says to every Arabic speaker. This is what it says, which is really strong evidence that you can't just sit down and trust an Arabic speaker when they say, I know the Quran, I know what it says, you don't, so shut up, because if you've got this, you'll say, I know what the Quran sounds like to you, because I have a literal word-for-word translation of the Quran by a native Arabic speaker. And it's nonsense. It's nonsense because it's not written in the Qurayshi Arabic language or any Arabic except Judeo-Arabic. Now, Murad hasn't done a Judeo-Arabic translation of the Quran. People ask me, "Are you ever going to do a Judeo-Arabic translation of the Quran?" And I keep saying no. I'm not going to do that. But I don't know if Murad wants to go with me in future and go to a second level of this. We might work and collaborate on a Judeo-Arabic version of the Quran for you. What do you think, Murad?
Yeah, I have it like in my head, but it's gonna take me just a few years actually to
You need
recover
a
from.
recover. You need a break.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
need to go to rehab because
Yeah,
really it hurt my brain and it hurt my mind and soul and body.
I understand.
So I cannot like
Absolutely.
give you
No,
a
let's give it
100%.
about 10 years, and then we'll give you them a Judeo-Arabic translation of the Quran, but not right now. Okay,
Yeah,
but maybe
not
after
right now.
10 years. But look, if we're going down the path of a Judeo-Arabic translation of the Quran, it's going to have extremely different meanings. But a lot of this has got extremely different meanings as well. Now, some of you also, I want to bring up this passage because we looked at this earlier. It's in Surah 18, verse 86. Some of you who don't realize, but let's move through. I'll just scroll through as we go through because some of you who don't realize, actually, I want to go through that verse. It was in Surah 3, I think it is, when you've got the red words. Let's just stop at a red word when we see a red word, because some of you don't realize that what the translation says is sometimes the exact opposite of what is written. And you might look at some of the words in here, the way he's transliterated Arabic into English, and you think, well, he's being very inconsistent. Sometimes he's spelling it one way, and another time he's spelling it another way. It's really sloppy. But what you're actually getting is a realistic exposition of what an Arabic speaker will see when reading such verses. Let me just carry on scrolling down here a little bit more. I can't remember which verse I was going to show. Which has got the knot in there. It should pop out very soon because it's going to be in red. I think it's in Surah 4, isn't it? And Nisa, which we're on now.
The word nisa, by the way, is when it's mentioned with the Prophet, it's always translated in English as wives when it's just women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what it is, just women. Exactly the same as in Hebrew, by the way. All right, so here we have a verse. This is great. This is Surah 4, verse 105. And he's got the word highlighted in red here. I hope that's showing clearly for you on screen. You might say, why did he highlight this word in red? Tell us, why have you highlighted this word in red here?
Well, in the Arabic it says وَلَا تَكُنْ لا تكن, meaning do not be. But most likely, because this is a big mistake, most likely this is وَلِتَكُنْ, meaning and definitely be an adversary to the betrayers.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a mistake, and I think this mistake comes from the old manuscripts. But the idea is every other translation,
Mm-hmm.
you will find it playing around with the word adversary. They
Mm-hmm.
have it as something else, so that they flip the word adversary on its head. So this is a big scam by almost every other Quran translation. This
Because
is
they
a
don't
mistake. This is a mistake in the Arabic.
because they don't want to accept that it says basically here, do not be an adversary. So to the betrayers. So they try to find another way to translate the verse. As you know, Islam is very harsh on apostates, on betrayers, and so the idea is, well, they should be very harsh on the betrayers, and so they have to be something opposed to, and the word "not" here really kind of undermines that standard Islamic approach. What does it even mean if you're not supposed to be an adversary to betrayers? Just let them be. It's like basic means live and let live, man. Now, as you say, this could be an error which has slipped into the original manuscript somehow, but I find that very difficult to imagine that somebody wouldn't have had their hands cut off for putting a lamb in there when it was meant to. So I think it's actually just saying don't
No,
be.
I'm saying there is a dagger alif which
Mhm.
has been inserted. It
Oh,
should
it's a
be
haraka.
walatakun, meaning and definitely be. This
Mm.
la in an Arabic understanding, of course, would be definitely,
And
not do
definitely
not.
be an adversary to the betrayers. But the dagger aleph is a haraka, right?
The dagger aleph, it's at a later stage.
Mm-hmm.
But in the
Yeah.
original manuscript, or not the original, but let's say what we have in Hafs, it's لا تكن. لا
Right.
تكن.
Let's have a look and show what we're talking about so that people can see. Well, this is verse 105, I think. Let's put it in 105 in the Corpus Quran there. For 105, 104, and 105. Yeah, and deceitful. Here we go. Look at this verse. This is it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, there it is. I see. This is the dagger aleph here.
Do you
Right.
see here خصيما? What do you have it? A pleader.
A pleader, as opposed to an adversary. Hasiman.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But خصيم comes from خصام, and خصم, this is an adversary, an opponent. This is definitely your enemy.
Mm-hmm. So, since it's definitely your enemy, an enemy to the deceitful, why is it saying don't be an enemy to the deceitful? It's like leave the deceitful, let them be, it's fine.
Exactly.
But so they have to change the meaning of
They have
deceitful
to play with خصيما and not play with do not be, because if
because
they
it's
play
too
with do
clear.
not be, it's gonna be too obvious.
Right, I see. Yeah. On the other hand, it could just mean that the early meaning of the Quranic verse was very, very chillaxed. Leave the man, it's fine. don't worry.
Yeah, but if you look at the word خصيم, if you open this word in
Yeah,
every other context, never will they have it as pleader. They will
opponent,
have it as
dispute, quarreling,
yeah,
argumentative, litigant. Yeah, it's definitely
never.
negative. And they
Yeah,
never, this is the only occurrence where it actually is pleader. Every other time
exactly. So that
it's
they escape
negative.
from ولا تكن. So
Yeah, yeah.
that they escape from this one.
They do things like that so often, don't they? I noticed they did this with Salaba as well. The crucifix when it's in the surah At-Tariq, where let me just have a look. Did you deal with that one?
Which one
Where
exactly?
it says that let's have a look at that. What verse is that? Let mankind consider from what he has created a fluid flowing from between the ribs and the crucifix. It says Salaba, and they this only one time says and his spine, and they translated as spine instead. Is that what you did on that verse? How did you do that? Deal with that
I
verse?
have this one because صلب
Yeah,
is it's solid. It's the English solid, so I have it as solidness.
solidness. Okay,
Yes,
solidness. Mm-hmm. Very different again. So it's not in Aramaic. It's crucifixion, but and I believe they use that in as a punishment in some verses of the Quran. It says crucify them,
I have it in my translation as solidify. So
solidify
you
them.
so you put maybe
Right.
you hang him as you solidify him. So
Solidify him.
in the Arabic
Make him stiff. Like
understanding,
maybe kill him or something. I don't know. But
yeah, in the Arabic
solidify him.
understanding, you would solidify him till
Mm.
parchment, till he's left for the sun to eat him up. This is
I
what I
see.
got from the Arabic dictionary.
You think it might mean like dry him to death, something like that. Dry him out.
Yes, he is
Hmm.
dried from all the fluids. All of a
Mm.
sudden, now he's solid. So this is the Arabic understanding of it. Solb, I
Very,
have it
very
as
different.
solidness.
Interesting. Very different. Great. Well, there you go. Another example of difference, and it really is exposing how you see how you think. Because I don't know these interpretations solidify. I don't know because I can only think of it in the Judeo-Arabic context, and when I hear people saying, "Well, this is this is the meaning. This is standard Islamic meaning," I think, well, that's the same in Judeo-Arabic. But what I'm learning here is that the standard Arabic is actually very different from Judeo-Arabic, and some of these religious meanings which are given to the verses in the Quran are extremely Judaic meanings. Some, but not all, and that's the inconsistency. It's like there's cherry picking, and I find this so often, Murad. There's always cherry picking when it comes to the Jewish opinion. If people will take what they want from the Jewish opinion and leave the rest, they don't want to take the whole of the Jewish opinion. They just want to take the bits which satisfy their needs, and they're very happy to leave the rest and invent the rest by themselves. But that's one of the things which always confused me about Islam. It's like, well, why do you have Jewish meaning here, but then no Jewish meaning there? And if you had a pure Arabic understanding, this is what it says. This is what it says. So that was great. Thank you for that. Let's move on to. We'll look at that word inna because it's an example of how you look through all the possible meanings and you found the word from. So let's look at that one. To try and make, and in fact, I think Murad is being very fair and very sympathetic towards Arabic. He's trying his best to make it mean something in Arabic, even though it doesn't have a meaning in Arabic. So this is the verse here. And it says, this is the one we talk about on this channel quite a lot. Oh, eligibles. It's chapter 4, verse 171. And the translation, as it sounds, if you are an Arabic speaker, is, O eligibles of the writing, do not shackle in your conviction, and do not say over Allah except the truth. Surely Al-Masih Isa, son of Maryam, is only the messenger of Allah and his word which he has tossed into Maryam, and a breath from him. So believe by Allah and his messengers, and do not say 3, refrain, which is more charitable for you. Surely Allah is only one deity from having a birth. One for him is what is in the skies and what is in the earth, and suffice by Allah as a representative. Well, it's really convoluted. It's very, very difficult to make sense of that. But he chose the word from here. There's this question mark here because you've got this word which you couldn't translate. Question marks. Oh, yes, we should explain. I think we did. Question marks. Explain again. Question marks are words.
These are words that do not make sense in the Arabic language. And if you ever find the meaning for them, then it's definitely borrowed. And in most times, they are just guesses. This is the word subhanahu. Subhanahu in the Arabic does not have a clear meaning. They say glorify. Well, glorify is tamjid, majjada, not subhana. So subhana, it could probably mean something like sing praises, but I didn't put it here because this is not Arabic. So it says something along the lines of, praised is he from having a birth one, so he is too good from having a birth one. This is anna. This is an, sorry, an, not anna.
Not
an.
Not
it would be from here, but from meaning to or that, as we have discussed.
Yeah. Because of course you've got from, which would be min, as in taken from something, but this is not that from. This is a different from, and Murad struggled to decide, and he had a long think about what word to use consistently throughout the Quran when he translates the word an, and we'll share the example. Where is the example? Yeah, here's the example. We'll share the example here. So when you go to look at the possible meanings of the word an, it's got here the 578 occurrences of the word as spelt like this, with this particular haraka, as you can see on top here. When it appears like this, it's pronounced an. And so he had a look through and he chose the meaning from. This is the word he chose. I would choose a different word, but he chose the word from to be consistent with every other use in the Quran. So it's got one meaning all the way through, which is similar to that and to, but it's from is, for example, don't stop me from going outside. Okay. In this case, it doesn't mean I'm taking me out of something to go outside. Don't stop me from going outside. It's merely something like, don't stop me to go outside. But if you say to go outside, it's bad grammar. You'd say don't stop me from going outside. But it's the same meaning exactly as don't stop me to go outside. Or don't stop me that I go outside. Same sort of meaning, but it's bad grammar. So you could say in English, don't stop me from going outside. Same meaning as that and to. And the word he chose was from. A very different meaning, and you see in the word here, they put it down here, is lest. If I say, don't stop me lest I go outside, it's a very different meaning from when I say, don't stop me from going outside, or don't stop me to go outside, or don't stop me that I go outside. These three sentences mean the same thing. Don't stop me that I go outside. Don't stop me to go outside. Don't stop me from going outside. These mean the same thing. But if I say, don't stop me lest I go outside, this is very different. It's a very, very different meaning. And so to avoid that sort of inconsistency in the meanings, Murad chose one word to use every single time the word an appears. And it's not the word which I would choose in Judeo-Arabic, but it is he's trying to make this text have some consistent meaning in Arabic. And so he chose the word from as the best option for all of the possible occurrences. If you look at the standard translations, they probably use that as the most common translation usually. But they do switch it around. They switch it around a lot, and they do use lest every now and then, which is a very different meaning. So that's an example there. But the end result is still something very convoluted. And in the end, he is trying to preserve here the standard sort of Arabic interpretation of the verse, glorify Allah away from having, but actually that's a different from, to be honest, because that's min, really. But don't stop, well, glorify Allah that having a son or a birth or to having a birth. It really just doesn't really make sense. But and in fact, we don't even know what the word means, subhanallah. Maybe it doesn't mean glorify in Arabic. Maybe it has a completely different meaning. He couldn't find a meaning for that word, glorify, so he put a question mark in there. An example of how he's worked this through. Now I'm going to move on to Surah 18. Do you want to make any more comment about that before we move on?
Yeah. If I had to choose, I would not have translated the word an at all, but it would make the whole thing collapse, because I am not like 100% sure that an is that or to or from, but I had to, depending on the context, or else we will not have any syntax. So this is, as I say in my preface, this is the best shot for Arabic. This is the best shot, which is not very good.
Thank you so much. Well done. Well, I think it's a good shot. Well done. Thank you. Okay, so now let's look at something more interesting. Even more interesting, I should say. Surah 18. Let's get there. Verse 86. It's at the end of Surah 18, so I think the best way to find it is to just go to the beginning of the translation. And are we sharing the right page? Yes, I'm sharing the right page. And go to the beginning, and we'll go to the index. Very nicely in the PDF version, he's got the index here that if you click on the index surah, it'll take you directly to the surah you want. So we're going to go to Surah 18. Here's the index, and there it is, Surah 18, Kaf. I think I'll go to Maryam, and I'll go backwards from Maryam into the Kaf, and that will get us where we want to be more quickly. And here we are with the story of Dhul-Qarnayn and the two-horned one. And here it starts here. He's written at one time in verse 83, he's written the Al-Qarnayn. And some of you might think, oh, he's being inconsistent, because there, a little bit lower down, he says the Al-Qarnayn. Okay, the Al-Qarnayn here, and then the Al-Qarnayn a few sentences later. And you think, oh, Murad, you've made a terrible mistake. Your English is bad, or your grammar is wrong, or your spelling is wrong, or you didn't use your spell check. What do you have to say to those people? No.
Yeah, in the Arabic, it's two different words. It's two different ways of writing the name Dhil Qarnayn, Dhal Qarnayn. And even in one, when it says Oh Dhal Qarnayn, it's actually connected. Ya Dhal Qarnayn, one word.
So let's have a look at that so I can help people see.
So I'm preserving as much as I can what the Arabic is actually saying.
Exactly. And then we get in English a more clear experience of what an Arab would experience. So here is the verse in 86, verse 18, verse 86, and it's the Al-Qarnayn. There's the three letters there. If you want to pause this and compare it back and forth later, you'll see the big difference. There's one, Dhal Karnain. You can also go to corpusquran.com and check on the word by word, chapter 18, verse 86, and you can see as it is. And then we have in verse 83, very different word, the Al-Karnain. Can you see this? It's the. That's where you want to go. So you can pause it and go back and have a look at the other example, back and forth. You see, it is different word. So as an native Arabic speaker reading this, you'll see it says the this time, and then the second time it clearly says the second time around. Let's get that there. There's the. So this is not because he's not being consistent and he's making mistakes or something like that. This is because he's actually showing you exactly what an Arabic speaker will see. And the inconsistencies that an Arabic speaker will notice, you can notice too. There's the and the. The and the. They also have a ya, attached to the beginning here. There's the in the blue letters, the, and they have a ya connected to before it. Ya the. Okay? Is my pronunciation correct?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the.
Yeah, that. And here it's just the. There's no ya, it's the. Okay. So that's what you see. That's what you get. Thank you so much.
The
All
one
right.
before it, which is
Yeah.
there, it is like Yasin, the way it's connected.
It's Yasin.
Yasin, there.
Yeah, there.
That's why I thought it was very important for the people to see exactly how it's written in the Arabic, so that future work can be done. This is just like the beginning.
Very good. Thank you so much. Now, this is only the English only version. Do you also have for sale the English and Arabic alongside each other version?
Yeah, I have like a complete package. So you have the English and the Arabic, PDF and Kindle, and the English only PDF and Kindle. So this is a package. And there is also one which is English only, but it cannot be highlighted and has a watermark. This is just a standalone product, English only PDF. This is much cheaper, of course.
Very good. All right. So if you want to get a feel of how it actually feels to read it as a native Arabic speaker, then you need to get hold of one of those translations that he's provided. One is more academic with the Arabic along side by side, and you can check it out yourself as you go along. And one is for those of you who are quite happy to have just an easy, simple read. Although it won't make sense, but at least you'll get an easy, simple read of the English translation, and that's the one we're looking at today on this show. Maybe we'll have a look at the other version on another show. If you want to come back and give the other version later, we can look at some examples for some in-depth study, so people can have a look at that for a study example.
Yes.
And as I said, hopefully, one day. Well, you can always, just in case anybody wants to know, you can always write to me and ask me what is the Judeo-Arabic interpretation of this verse, and I will always be happy to tell you. Okay, this is the Judeo-Arabic reading of this verse. Judeo-Arabic is great. I don't know why people haven't focused on it beforehand. I think it's because people assume that Muslims and Jews hate each other so much that there's no chance that the Quran could possibly be written in Judeo-Arabic. So it's immediately cut that one out, and then they move on to something else. But I always argue it's a Messianic Noahide text. And if you understand Messianic Noahide Judaism, you'll understand it. But if you don't, then you won't understand it. That's what I always argue. But if you want me to give you the Judeo-Arabic reading of any verse, you can always write to me, and I'll write back. Or best, I prefer to speak, because writing takes up an awful lot of my time, with so many people writing, and I don't have that much time. But if you speak to me, we can cover a lot more ground in a much shorter amount of time. So if you want to, you can come into the studio after this show and you can ask some questions. I will put the link to the studio in the chat there for you to pop in. I will not add you to the live stream, but you are welcome to come into the studio and wait until the live stream is over. And then you can ask some questions if you like. I will have to pop out for a little while. I don't know if Murad, if you have time to talk to anybody in like backstage after the show. Do you have any time?
I will try my best, yeah.
Very good. Okay. So you've got the live stream link there. Nobody has popped into the studio right now, but if anybody does want to, we will have a private chat with you after the show if you like. Okay, Murad, is there anything else you'd like to say at this point concerning your translation? We've gone 55 minutes, which I think is a good cover of the introduction to your translation. Is there anything you'd like to say to close?
Yeah, I would just ask the people to get this translation and to not assume. Please do not assume that this is another Quran translation because it is not. Like every single word is different, even the syntax is different than anything. People say, what about Robert Spencer, for example? What about Osama? Well, they are in the standard narrative so much without noticing.
Right.
So they didn't make this kind of work. Although Robert did his best with Did Muhammad Exist? And he is very good with looking at Islam from an outside perspective, but still with his translation, he made the same assumptions, the Persian assumptions that come from the Abbasids and later. So
Mm.
please do not assume that you know, because this is very different. In my translation, for example, there is no eating, prohibiting pork. This is not in my translation because I looked at the words from the Arabic dictionary. There
Mm.
is no Yathrib, the word
Hmm.
Yathrib, which is later Medina of the Prophet. It's something different in my translation. So if you want to like just have a deep dive into what the Quran actually says in the Arabic without any standard narrative, you should get my translation by now.
Yes, absolutely. And I can also confess that I also assumed it was just going to be another person's interpretation of the Quran, and I wasn't really interested to get it, even though I know Murad and he's my friend. We've known each other since 2020. I and we have a good relationship. I thought, oh, I'm just reading another person's interpretation. I'm just not. I'm just tired of reading people's interpretations of the Quran. But he said, "Here, I'll send you a copy." So he sent it to me, and I opened up, and immediately with that first verse and Surah 2, immediately I realized and I could see, no, this is what is needed. This is what the English audience needs. It is not somebody's interpretation of the Quran. It is simply, very, very honestly, showing what it looks like if you are an Arabic speaker. And that's very different to what I assumed. And I urge you also, don't assume. Don't assume that this is just another person's translation of the Quran. There's no reason why I should side with Murad here on this and say, oh, it's fantastic, it's amazing. There's no reason at all whatsoever. He's my friend, and I have people who are my friends who I disagree with all the time. Okay, and I have never had a fear to disagree with my friends. But here is something really unique. It's very, very good that you can see what an Arab speaker sees when you read the Quran, and you will realize this is the most important thing. You will realize it's just utter nonsense. It doesn't make sense in Arabic. And it's a sad thing that people who are not native Arabic speakers will think that this has got something to do with Arabs. It hasn't. Judeo-Arabic, yes, there are Syriac words in here. All those question marks. They may be Syriac words, they may be Aramaic words, they may be Hebrew words, they may be Romaniot words, they may even be Gez words, which is Ethiopian Jewish words. There are a lot of Judeo-Arabic terms in here. That is words which aren't even Arabic, but are known in the Judaic milieu of the Middle East, from Ethiopia, from the Mediterranean, from the Gulf. Okay, you've got a large area of trade going on there, and those words would be known in Judeo-Arabic. Hence, you can have somebody like Christoph Luxemburg coming along doing a Syro-Aramaic reading the Quran, Gabriel Said, Reynolds focusing on this. I think he focuses mainly on Syriac, and people can argue. Wait a second, this word looks like Gez, and there are people with different opinions, and they're all correct, but not totally correct. And here we have I think the best starting point is people say this is nothing but Arabic. Well, let's look at it as if it was nothing but Arabic then, and let's see why we have people like Gabriel Reynolds saying, well, let's look at the Syriac meanings because it doesn't make sense in Arabic. And let's see why people like Christoph Luxemburg want to say a Syro-Aramaic reading because it doesn't make sense in Arabic. And now you can see here with Murad's translation, you can see why are people trying to find different languages to read it in? And that's what you will get if you actually buy Murad's copy there. And I think it's a very good good start. All right, well that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. We've hit 1 hour. I hope you've enjoyed the show. We've got lots of comments in the chat there, but I won't be going through them all. And nobody has joined us in the studio, so we will be able to take a break. Okay, that's the end of the show. Thank you so much for watching. You've got a link to Murad's channel in the box underneath the description box underneath the video. You've got a link to buy the book in the chat there, which is pinned at the top. If you want to buy Murad's translation, you can click that buy me a coffee, St. Murad Extras. Okay, and so I hope that you will be interested in having a read. If you have an interest in Islam, you do need to see what nonsense it makes in Arabic. It doesn't make any kind of sense, but it's really good effort, and I'm very, very grateful to Murad for doing that. Thank you so much for that, and thank you for coming on to the show and letting us know about it.
Thank you very much for having me. I am delighted that you actually endorse this work. It's great. Thank you very much for having me once again.
You're welcome. Okay, everybody, God bless you all. Take care, and shalom. Bye-bye.